Hello, everybody. Welcome to live. Welcome, welcome.
Welcome back to the Digital Town Crier, where we bring you the stories that matter most to our families and communities.
Please leave a
I'm Lola,
comment. Let us
your
know that
AI
you're here.
co-host, and today we're talking about a heartbreaking trend that continues to put our young people at risk. Gladys, it seems like every few months another dangerous social media challenge makes headlines. Now we're hearing about three children in Connecticut who died after overdosing on diphenhydramine, the medication commonly sold as Benadryl. What do parents need to know? This isn't the first time we've seen something like this, is it? What warning signs should parents watch for? What practical steps can families take today? Any final thoughts? Thank you, Gladys. To every parent listening, remember this. Social media trends come and go, but the consequences of dangerous decisions can last forever. Stay informed, stay connected, and keep talking with your children. Welcome back to the Digital Town Crier, where we bring you the stories that matter most to our families and communities. I'm Lola, your AI co host, and today we're talking about a heartbreaking trend that continues to put our young people at risk. Gladys, it seems like every few months another dangerous social media challenge makes headlines. Now we're hearing about three children in Connecticut who died after overdosing on diphenhydramine, the medication commonly sold as Benadryl.
Yes, Lola. So, unfortunately, there are a bunch of stories coming out about teens who have passed away. Um, there are about three children that we know about, and that means that their family has come out and publicly said that um, they know that their teen passed away because they participated in this Benadryl challenge. There's some information that obviously is lacking. We won't know every teen that passes away because we have to respect the family, and it's up to the family to say if they want the world to know that this happened. But this is a serious case. This case is serious because teens may not know what the effects of what they're doing are, and they are being peer pressured into doing this. So that peer pressure is what's leading them to want to do this challenge, and they believe that it's going to be funny. They're going to have a hallucination, and then it'll be they'll come out of the hallucination and they can tell it as a funny story. And what they don't realize is how dangerous this drug is when it's taken at such high amounts, and things like that. So there is the Preston family. Their 15-year-old from Oklahoma did this challenge and died on June 14th. So that was just last month. And then there's the Stevenson's family. Their 13-year-old in Ohio did the challenge in 2023 and passed away from taking it. And it it was like 12 in the Stevenson's case. It was 12 to 14 pills that was taken at the time, and that child passed away. And then in Connecticut, three children died over a 2 month span from that overdose. And so for parents, it's watching out and making sure that you know what is in the medicine cabinets, knowing how much is there, and then keeping those things out of reach of your teen, because your teen you know, may participate in this challenge, even if you think, oh, my teen is smarter than that, or, different things like that. Peer pressure can really, really get in the way. And so it's important to talk to your teens and let them know what the consequences of this challenge are, and how, you can support them if they feel like they're being pressured into doing something like this by their friends. It's really good to know who your kids' friends are and what activities and things like that they're doing when they're online, because they may be asked to do the challenge directly, like face to face with friends, or they may be asked to do it while they're online and they're watching something online, chatting with friends, or even through group chats and things like that. So it's really important to watch what your kids are exposed to and what they are doing in their friendships and things like that. If you ever hear that your teen's friend is being overbearing, if you ever hear that your teen's friend is being controlling, those kind of things, it's good to try to support them and let them know that, some of those type of behaviors are not healthy behaviors for them, for their friends to have towards them, or to have towards anybody, really. And so it's really, really important, as you, as parents, are checking things out, and making sure that you're supervising your children, that supervision, rubs off on them, that they start to know, like their radar can go up when they hear a friend, or they see, maybe it's even another friend group where something's happening. Your child's radar will go up if you are talking to them, and you're trying to help them to understand what peer pressure looks like, how to respond to peer pressure. That's another thing. It's one thing to tell kids, don't do drugs, don't do this Benadryl challenge, all those different things. It's another thing to give them the language to use in order to get rid of peer pressure. If your child has been bullied in the past, that makes them more susceptible to peer pressure, because they don't want to be bullied and they want to try to fit in. Now, that's one thing we've all at some point in our lives wanted, is we've all at some point in our lives wanted to fit in. And so that idea of wanting to fit in means that your child may decide to experiment and do this thing, and feel like, oh, I'm going to be a part of the group, and all of those kind of things. So building that sense of efficacy in your child, where they know, hey, I can solve my problems, I have the language to solve my problems. And then if not, they know that they can come to you and you will be able to help them. So using that non-judgmental stance is really super important, so that they will be able to come back to you when they need help and things like that. But if you use a judgmental stance, then they may not be likely to come back to you and talk to you and share with you when something is going on in their lives. I know it's pretty easy to get angry as a parent and wonder how your kid can be, like this, or doing these particular things. But it's also important to note that, children sometimes, that peer pressure, that doing things that they wouldn't ordinarily do, all of that kind of happens. And so letting your child know, hey, I'm the type of person you can come to, you can talk to when things are, not going well, all of that will help them to be able to, come to you when there is something important that needs to be shared, and things like that. So, I want to thank Lola for bringing this topic up and for letting us know that, these things, and bringing these important topics to our attention, because it's really important for us to be aware, for parents to be aware, and those of us as a community. And so if you think about it, it's like, okay, how does the community play a role, or what role does the community play? One of the roles that the community plays is that sometimes when the kids are out and about, they're getting some of these products at local stores. They're getting some of the vaping products, some of the drugs, all of those different things at local stores. Sometimes they're even getting it at the local drugstore. So for example, Benadryl is an over the counter medication, and they can easily you know get it over the counter. So those are things that are important to pay attention to, because you'll be able to see if, as a community member, there's something you can do to help in that circumstance, so that it's not, so that you're not feeding into or aiding teens who are not supposed to be having certain products to have those products and things like that available to them. Um, and so that's how we as community members can help and pay attention to the things that are going on in our own community, in our own spaces. It's not only the job of other people to get it done, it's all of us. It's all of our jobs to help make sure that we are not contributing in any way to the drug habits and things like that of teens. So I wanted to give um, an update on Pastor Spells. So I will say I have been. So one of the first things when this first happened, I did mention that I was kind of confused and not sure what to make of all of this, and things like that. And there's this Bible verse. I forget. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it. Um, I'm gonna use Google here. Do not grow weary of doing good. Um, and I think I'm getting weary of doing good. Um, which is not a good thing at all. So it's Galatians 6, verse 9, and it says, "Let us not become weary of doing good, for at the proper time we will reap the harvest if we do not give up." And I mean, there's a part of me that's like, how much longer do we have to deal with all this stuff, like all these bad things that are happening in this world? I've noticed that that's what I've started thinking, and I have to stop thinking in that manner. I have to start thinking in more positive ways and getting back to the scripture, getting back to prayer. And I think it is normal for all of us, whether we're Christian or not, to become weary, to become just tired of the bad news and the so-called the bad people winning and doing things and getting away with it and all of this stuff. And so I realized that that's what was happening with me, and that's why I'm so like in this position of, you know what, I can't blame him, but then I can, and different things like that. And so recently it was on the news that Pastor Spells and his team were mowing their lawn at an ungodly hour, no pun intended. And the neighbor called the police on a noise complaint, and Pastor Spell was saying some things that were not the kindest and things like that. Now that I will firmly say, I think that he needs to chill out on that part. Like, you know what, the people threatened your family, you took care of the situation. Now it's time to go back to being the best neighbor you can be, no matter what they're doing, and things like that. So no matter what they're doing, don't antagonize them. Don't be the one that's going to be in the blame for what's happening. You have to remain blameless in the situation. If they're antagonizing you, they're doing things to you, that's different than you retaliating and doing things to them. And so I hope that he can, kind of take a step back and go back to just, just preach to your congregation, just do the things you need to do. Like he had even said in his previous, um I don't know if you want to call it a press conference, when he was talking, you know it is important to wait and see what's going to happen in court. And once he sees what happens in court and things like that, um, the truth will come out. The judge will be the one that handles the situation and all of those different things. And so he doesn't need to be the one that keeps pushing these grievances and these things to come to pass. And so I really do hope that he will take a step back and kind of let the law handle the situation moving forward from here, because it's not a good look. It definitely is not a good look for a pastor to be the one that's antagonizing everybody and bringing things to a head in that manner, for sure. So one other story that I wanted to bring up, and I don't know where it went. Oh, he's supposed to be in court. Ooh, September 15th. Well, holy goodness. That's gonna be a long while of the two of them going at it with each other. So yeah, I think Pastor Spells, definitely 100% needs to take a step back and go back to, being a peaceful person, being a good neighbor, and not being the one that is being antagonistic and things like that. It's one thing if somebody's coming at you, and it's a different thing when you're the one retaliating and doing all of those things. And so at least that is my opinion on the situation. But like I said, yeah, I realized that I'm tired. I'm burnt out when it comes to turning the other cheek and doing the right thing and all of that stuff. So I need to kind of, get back to it, get back to reading the Bible, spending time doing things that are helpful. So going back to my garden, um, uh, watching my fish swim around in his aquarium, or her aquarium, should I say? Doing things that are helpful and healthy, and kind of lay off the news just a little bit. Watch the World Cup. I mean, some of those games are pretty exciting, and things like that. So watching the World Cup, trying to learn where everybody is from, where those countries are in the world. My geography is pretty good. It's rusty, but it is pretty good. And so spending some time, I think, in those areas and looking at those things will be the healthier thing for me to do, rather than just listening to the news and getting swamped with the negativity and things like that, because that's how we get weary of doing good, is when we surround ourselves with that negative information, and it just keeps we just keep consuming the negativity and things like that. So that's, I think, what I'm going to do, is spend some more time away from the negativity and doing the things that are helpful, instead of doing the things that can actually hurt my mind. If you're feeling the same way, I would encourage you to do that as well. So if you're feeling the same way, if you're hearing all of the negativity and that's bothering you as well, then um, that is my suggestion, is to take a break from it and do some of the things that actually help to cultivate your soul. So speaking of not so good news, which this is actually turned out good for these children. So in Ohio, In Hamden, Ohio, the police were going to a house to serve a warrant, and they ended up making a shocking discovery. So they ended up discovering that there were 16 children in this particular household, and those 16 children were living in squalor. They were living in filthy conditions. They were malnourished. They were, all of the nightmarish things that you can think about when the police walked into this household. So when the police finally took stock of everything that was happening, they realized that the 16 children were living in this house in this condition with both of their parents and both of their grandparents. So both parents and grandparents were in this household. Um, when you listen to what they were saying, what the police have said, the kids are anywhere between the ages of 18 years old and 18 months old. And so there's a wide range of ages in the children. Some of the children had to be life flighted to a hospital that could provide more intensive care for them. They haven't given any specific details, and I don't think they're going to release like names and things like that of the children. The children are minors, and so they're definitely not going to release that information. But they did release the names and the information of the parents and the grandparents. The father is Gary Siders Jr. He is 36, and then there's Gary Siders Sr., who is 73. The mother of the children is Elizabeth Siders, who's 33. And then there's Christina Siders, who's the grandmother, who is 67 years old. They have all pleaded not guilty to child endangerment, and their bond has been set at $300,000. Uh, so the so there are several different stories I've seen online, um, and so I guess we're just gonna have to really just continue to wait as the story comes out. But from one of the stories, it says that the mother, Elizabeth Snyder, was 15 years old when she married Gary Siders. So she was only 15 years old, is what I'm reading, when all of this started. And so she's now 33 years old. So it has been a while. It has been a long time that she's been in this household with her husband and his parents. And it sounds like, I mean, it's like she's been having babies, every other year, it would seem like. And so I don't know. Somebody had said that they believe that when this first occurred, that, when she met him, that her parents were against the marriage, but she ended up leaving home anyway and getting married. So I don't know if that information is true. I will continue to look and see what information we have, and what we've been given. But so far, that's what some people are saying, is that her parents were against her being with him way at the time of being 15 years old, and she may have run away from home and went with him anyway. But I'm not sure about that, and so I'll have to keep, listening and seeing. So the how this could happen, there are many theories, but the one of the things that the police have said, is that what could have made it continue to happen is, so this, abusing of the children and things like that may have continuously happened over a 4-year period, in the Ohio place itself, in Ohio. because the children were not enrolled in school, and there's hardly any medical records that are around about the children themselves and what was going on and things like that. And so a lot of times, school serves as a safe space for children. It serves as a space for the community to watch out for children, and things like that, because teachers have a legal obligation to report anytime they see anything that could be considered abuse. And so, well, anybody actually has a legal right to report it, but teachers are, because of their license, they are held to that standard where they need to report if they suspect anything going on with a child that's in their classroom, that's coming to the school, and things like that. Like I said, anybody can report, and sometimes people, fear that they'll be asked questions that they can't answer, and you're not required to give evidence. You're required to report and say, "This is what I see. This is what I suspect is happening," and then Child Protective Services will be the ones that come out and investigate. Now, I'm in Texas, and I know that in Texas, they just passed a law because some people were abusing it and just making frivolous, like, reports, or just continuously reporting. And so they did pass a law that says that if it's determined that you're just making malicious reports, that the law can take some action against you and things like that. But what they really want is for people to honestly say, "Hey, here's the situation I see. I think this child is in danger. I think this child's being abused. I think this child's being neglected." And then, Child Protective Services will go out and investigate. Now, obviously, if a child makes an outcry to you and they tell you, "Here's how I'm being treated," or, "Here's what somebody's doing to me," then you definitely, it's like that, say something, call the hotline, go online. You can always look up, how to report child abuse, and you can fill out all of the information and things like that online, um, and let them know. They will do the investigation and move forward and things like that from there. So you're not obligated to prove anything. So that's one of the ways, is or two of the ways that this family flew under the radar for so long, is that the kids weren't, there are no hardly any doctor records and, like, medical records, and there's no record of them being in school. So that's how they flew under the radar for so long. I'm wondering, when more information comes out, if we will learn how this birthing situation is going, because to have 16 children and to have never once been, like, received any significant medical attention, I find that quite hard to believe. But yeah, so that's one of the ways that the police feel that this family has gotten away with this for so long. Now, there are one or two neighbors that are starting to come out and say that they've seen the children once or twice when they did, like, yard sales and various things like that. But I'm not sure where all of that is going to lead to. If it is true that there are neighbors coming out and saying they have seen the children, I mean, I'm sure that if you've seen the children, they did not look like they were in good conditions. And so that would be a case where you would reach out to Child Protective Services and say, "Here's what I'm suspecting." And then Child Protective Services will come out and take a look and see what is going on. Now, obviously, Child Protective Services will continue their investigation to see how this family kept flying under the radar. And then they'll also do drug tests and, various things on the family members, the grandparents and the parents, to see, if drugs are involved at all, or anything like that. Now, I know that when I used to work for an agency that was adjacent to Child Protective Services, that was one of the things that they did, was drug test the family. And I know that when a woman is having a baby, when she's giving birth, that the hospital does a drug test, because a lot of the families that I had worked with, the mother had drugs in her system, and that's what alerted Child Protective Services to come into the picture, and different things like that. So I'm curious to see what all of this will yield. I'm just glad that those children have been removed out of the household. Now, I do pray that Child Protective Services will protect them, because we know that the system is not perfect. And so I hope that Child Protective Services will protect these children and put them in a safe space. They have a lot of work to do. They have a ton of healing, um, a ton of work to do before they will feel safe and secure, and all of the things that they need in order to live a life where they are free from fear, free from stress and PTSD, and just trauma in general. So there's a lot of healing to do on the way, and so please do, keep this family in your prayers, keep them in your thoughts, do whatever it is that you do to send good vibes towards a group of people, because these children will need all of the good vibes that they can possibly get. And so, yeah, so I'm trying to perfect my um I'm trying to perfect my online presence and my ability to go live. So, Lola and I will be perfecting the way that we go live, and various things like that. But we want to be able to bring stories to your attention that affect our community at large, and that, we can ask for some wisdom from you guys, and hopefully we can shed some wisdom on it all. But I will leave you with this. Don't grow weary. Do not get burnt out. Do not feel left out, let down, and all of those things. Once those feelings start creeping up, it's time to get some rest. It's time to look at your fish tank or play with your pets, whatever pets you have. Get some gardening done, read a good book, call a friend, listen to some good music, cook some good food, do something to help, because the news, the everything can wear us down. It can make us, really, really stressed out, really tired. There are just so many things that happen at once. So thank you all for listening. Please do leave a comment and let me know that you were here. Even if you're listening to this after the live is done, let me know that you were here and that you were listening, and I will continue to perfect the lives. Um, I will also continue to bring updates. And yeah, let's go forward from here. So go forth and do not be weary. Yes, is um the main idea. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I will talk to you soon.